time link up series where we invite members of the DivInc community to come and talk about how they are changing the landscape of the tech ecosystem with diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility as their guide. I'm Charisse. I am the marketing director with DivInc, and this is the first episode of our Meet the Founder series for our Clean Energy Accelerator. If you're following us on social media, you've seen that just recently we launched our Clean Energy Accelerator here in Houston, and for the spring. And our demo day is coming up at the end of June 29th. And in preparation for that, we want to introduce you to our founders so you can get to know them and get excited about them going into demo day. So today we have Kobby, who is the founder of Pirl. And I'm going to let Kobby introduce himself and tell us a little bit about your company and the tech that you're bringing to clean energy. Take it away.
Great. Thanks a lot, Charisse. My name is Kobby Osei-Kusi. I'm the founder of Pirl Technology. Feel very honored to be part of the DivInc community. It's been a tremendous experience meeting other cohort members, really getting a sense of how powerful the DivInc brand and community is. So we've had a tremendous time. The problem that Pirl is solving is 40% of Americans rent. And so they don't have control over their parking space. And for most of them, they're actually just parking on the street. And so they can't buy an EV charger, which prevents them from being part of this transition from gas transportation to this future of electric transport. And so if we're going to hit all the targets that to really make an impact on climate change, we're going to need the 40% that is currently facing high charging anxiety to be part of the transition. So Pirl is building a new EV charging network that will solve that problem so that anyone, regardless of where you live, you can buy an EV and enjoy that experience.
Yeah, and so I've heard you talk about the tech and how y'all are solving the problem in front of many different groups of people, and it feels like every time you bring it up, there's at least two or three people that are like, "Oh, that's my problem. That is an issue I have." Either they're renting and they can't find a charger where they're renting, or they do own, but they just don't have access because it's just not widely available all across major metropolitan areas, especially where, in Houston, we see a lot of Teslas on the street, as well as Austin. And to say that the supply is so low, the demand is so high, I think you've really, really hit on something. So, what is different about what you're doing that most people who already own and need this type of tech for their cars have already experienced? What's that difference?
Yeah, so there are two big differences between us and others. The good thing is, from the federal government down to the state level and with private companies, there's just a lot of push to close the supply gap. So there are a lot of chargers come in, and that's a very, very good thing. What we see in the market is all of them are focused on public charging and to increasing access to chargers from gas stations to when you're driving on the highway. All that funding, or majority of it, is really, really focused on public charging. We're taking a different focus. We actually think a residential-based charging network is actually what is going to solve this charging anxiety. So what is happening is you're still going to have to drive several miles away to find charging. But with our approach, which some might call the Airbnb of charging, you can find someone. Our goal is to be present in every neighborhood, every zip code. So you don't have to travel far to actually find a charger, and you can reserve ahead of time. You can probably go park your car there, walk back home. It's just a much more humane, interactive, personal approach than what is currently what is currently happening in the market. And then at the core of our approach is a new charger that we're building. So we're building a new hardware, comes with new advanced capabilities. We call it a next generation charger, so that the experience that you're having around charging is actually different from what you're going to get when you go elsewhere.
Nice. And I'm just wondering, for you, how did you come to this? I know you have of course, the subject matter expertise, but how did you come to see this problem and decide that you're the person to solve it?
Well, I live in a place where my parking space is several.
You're
Uh,
your
uh, uh,
customer.
yeah, yeah. And there's a crosswalk, and you just can't put a charger there. The building codes. But then, probably 100 yards from my home, there's a community center with a swimming pool, right, and has a parking space that someone could actually provide EV charging there for that community, right? With all the reservation systems, all the billing systems, all of that together. So that's really kind of what we're doing, is packaging it in such a way that you can easily install it in shared places. And I would be customer number one, because I face that problem. My background is in the energy space. I used to develop power plants for a Fortune 500 company. So I used to travel around the world. I used to work with engineers to really say that if we want to build a new power plant, how do we structure the financing? How do we bring on the engineering team on board? How do we purchase turbines? So that was really my job. And within that company, there was a new startup that was working on batteries and sort of working on electrified transport, and also batteries for the grid. And so I was able to see that, learn from that, and I'd always wanted to start something on my own. So this was sort of a good problem to start with.
Yeah, yeah. What's the startup journey been like for you as a founder? What's the some of the challenges you've experienced? And I would imagine there's kind of the overall challenges that every founder may experience, but there may be some directly connected to this particular industry itself. So what's been the experience so far?
Yeah, it's the founder journey is has its highs and lows, right? And I think there is a good map for the founder journey, and it's called the hero's journey. So the hero's
Right.
journey is, a very popular sort of
Mhm.
model for human growth, right? Personal growth. And I do think founders really match that hero's journey, right? So there is the beginning where you go to find something that is a gem or something precious, and then you struggle to eventually bring it back to your beginning, like where you left off. And so I feel that my journey as a founder has been that way, where really started off with an idea, went off to build a team, and now we're ready to start installing our pilots with the goal of selling the product later this year. So I feel like we're now sort of really coming back, or doing one cycle of that hero's journey. I think specifically, I think timing has been one of the most beneficial things for us. When we first started, there's still a lot of questions around EVs, and sort of whether we were all going to transition to an EV future. Now, I don't get those questions anymore.
Wow.
So that's been sort of a very positive thing. And then I would say when we first started, also, we were kind of very focused on building the technology, and we didn't spend as much time building together with other founders. And I found that, being part of communities like DivInc and just really being shoulder to shoulder with other founders is just a tremendous uplift, to us. So We always very grateful and honored to be part of these communities because they've just brought so much joy and resources to what we're doing.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the hero's journey. That's one of my favorite um, uh, storytelling constructs to follow. And so I have to ask, you know, a key element of the hero's journey is the change that the hero has to make in order to achieve whatever goal that they're working towards. So I have to ask you, what things have you has changed about you, or that you had to change about yourself, that brought you to the success that you've achieved so far?
Yeah, it's a topic I love, and I can talk about it, forever. I think
Me
when I,
too.
yeah, before I started a journey, I there are a few friends that I talked to, and from my MBA program, and we were all, we sort of came to this conclusion that we really wanted to transform ourselves, right? And so who I was as a sort of typical post MBA person, kind of focused on corporate America, focused on sort of rising up through the ranks, right? That was where my life journey was going, right? And but then there was something within me that felt that I wanted to transform. I wanted to be someone who was solving problems, right? Sort of creating things. And so I wanted to switch from sort of a corporate cog in a wheel to someone who actually could look at problems in the world and say that, I can step out and actually, craft a solution and be part of that, right? So almost sort of switching from um, accepting challenges, which is your boss giving you something to do, and then switching to a different mode of saying that actually being proactive about the challenges you want to take on in the world. So I'll say that mental switch was really and has been one of the most sort of important transformations. I remember when I left my former company, I remember I had to make an initial decision, and I remember looking around and I was like, there's no one else here. There's no committee that I need to go to get approval. There's no boss, right? And you're just yourself. You need to make, when you're within an organization, decisions are made for you, right? And when you're the founder, you need to make these decisions. And so getting comfortable with that, learning the tools to actually become the person who can make those critical calls, that has been, I would say, probably one of the biggest transformations. But there are lots of transformations that happen, and I can talk about it forever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned something a second ago about the community, and DivInc. We are all about changing trajectory through community, and how that community focus actually is an asset on par with curriculum based resources and even capital and investments when it comes to the success of a founder, especially a diverse founder. So you mentioned that was the community piece was a big part of you deciding to change with you and your friends, but also you mentioned it was a part of your experience with DivInc so far. And I'm wondering, what's it been like being in a room of founders who are like you and are experiencing this right along with you? What's that been like?
It's been a great feeling. First of all, you don't feel alone.
Mhm.
You feel that everything you're going through, someone else is going through the same thing. And sometimes I start a sentence and they complete it, right? So the parallels of our stories and experiences is just uncanny, but it just makes you feel that you're not alone. You're going through this together, whether it's fundraising challenges or just people not really understanding what you're saying. So I think really seeing the parallels of our stories has been just refreshing. But also, I would say it's also very, very encouraging seeing smart people of color, taking these types of risks, right? Perhaps
Mm.
historically we weren't taking those types of risks, or we weren't in places where, or having opportunities to take these types of risks, right? And seeing those people really crafting a better world, right? Each of them are building something that is going to make the world a better place, and just being part of that, it's just an incomparable feeling. So it gives you a lot of hope, right? You also get very, very motivated, right? When you
Yeah.
speak to other founders, right? Just come away with like, wow, this is, I want to go out there and put in 14 hours of work. And then I think the reality is you're just never going to know everything you need to do, or everything you need to know. So you're just learning very quickly from other people, right? You're learning from what they've tried that worked, what didn't work, right? And then you're just quickly getting smarter within that community. So I found that to be incredibly valuable, because all the things that we are looking to do, someone else has done it, and we're just learning very quickly. So I feel like our probability of success just rapidly, has increased by being part of people who are just facing similar challenges as we deal with every day.
I like to hear that. Yeah. Have there been anything that, as you've been going through, and I know part of the program is really doing a deep dive into the structures of your company, the way that you're approaching customers, the way you're, even targeting customers. There's all these different aspects of the company that you analyze each week. Is there anything that was a surprise, or any kind of aha moments that, maybe not a big pivot, but that kind of adjusted how you were approaching things, and therefore, brought you to another level?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. The first one was realizing the value of the data that we're going to be collecting. So our
Mm.
customers are going to be plugging in, charging their devices, and charging their cars. And our goal is to have tens of thousands of those. And before the program, we hadn't really grasped the value of the data that we're going to be collecting.
Mm.
And through the program, a number of facilitators, mentioned that. They mentioned similar companies that are generating value from energy data. Some of them even being Houston startups. So, in basically, in our financial model, we're now adding a revenue stream, which is the data, and it could actually be a very, very significant source of revenue, but it's also a significant source of value, because the data that we're capturing is very valuable for utilities, is very valuable for consulting companies, very valuable for states and federal governments, to really understand, how the future of charging is going to roll out. So the key thing is, we're going to need to, the electrical grid can't build enough capacity to handle all the EVs. We're going to need to manage that demand. And
Mm.
so all the parties are very interested in the analytics around managing the demand. And that those analytics will be something that we would be generating. So I would say the value of the company has really expanded based on this insight on what we can actually leverage the data that we're collecting. So I can't wait to build that product on top of our foundation, which is the charging network.
That's wonderful news, especially going into demo day, to say that you found a whole nother way to add value to the company. Perfect
Yep.
timing, I'd say. um,
Yeah.
and, as I mentioned in demo day on, coming up at the end of June, um, it definitely is a moment for you to kind of unveil this, newly thought out and newly, fully formed version of Pearl. And, I'm wondering, is there anything that, you're most excited about? You just mentioned one. Is there anything else that you're excited about, that you're going to be talking about during demo day, that people can watch online as well as in person here in Houston?
Yeah, we are working on signing a contract for our first pilot. That's going to be in DC. If we sign it before demo day, then that would be an announcement that we would add. But it's a beautiful community building in DC. We've been allocated 4 charging stations, and just a lot of really positive interactions and partnerships that we're going to be able to do with our host. Progress on the pilot will be something that we would love to share on demo day as well.
Wonderful. I'm so excited. And I guess, in my last question for you, though we'll have all members of our community watching this, of course, there's going to be a large founder community that will be watching. Those who want to really achieve the success that you've achieved and are still doing those midnight 2 a.m. work sessions trying to get through it. I'm wondering if you can give them a little, I don't know, a little encouragement, things that they need to be focused on. How do you get through those middle of the night worry sessions? Something that you want to leave them with as we're closing out.
Yeah, there's a mantra that I always try to repeat for myself when I'm, up all night and still struggling with something, and it's always, keep going, find a way, right? So that's what I would encourage all those founders, is that I know it's tough. There are no easy answers, but keep going, find a way, because the game ends when you quit, right? So if you can keep going, almost always you find a way. There's something magical about it, where if you just keep going, even a little bit that you can do, that particular day. Maybe you might not have the big breakthrough answers at 2:30 in the morning, but when you sleep over it, when you're taking a shower, blink, something comes, and you have a new insight, right? So I always just feel like, as long as you keep moving forward, the universe somehow moves to assist you with what you need in that particular moment.
Awesome. That's the perfect way to end our conversation. Thank you so much, Kobby, for joining me today. Thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing. And thank you for picking DivInc and being a part of this cohort. As I said before, Demo Day is coming up on June 29th here in Houston at the Ion. And it's where you'll be able to see all of our Clean Energy Accelerator cohort members, all of our companies, and it's brought to you by our title sponsors, Microsoft and Chevron. And so you can come join us there. And then we will also be streaming online for anyone who's not in the Houston area and would like to join in the festivities and the celebration and learn more about our founders. Kobby, thank you so much. Good luck with the rest of your Demo Day prep. And we'll see y'all at the next episode. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much.